Namaste. In this video, I'll be showing the important settings required to make an online MCQ based examination using Google Form and conducting it with appropriate settings to avoid unwanted situations. I would suggest to open form to start the examination and close the form to stop the examinations manually. Even though we know how to set timer using extensions available freely online for opening forms, for taking responses and closing forms at the end of the examinations automatically. Remember that such extensions are not secure. So let's begin. We will divide the explanation in this video in 5 parts. Part 1. Naming the Google form with appropriate examination details with useful instructions. Part 2. Creating section for students to fill related details to be filled by students. Part 3. Creating examination section for adding MCQs, marking correct answers and setting 2 points for each correct answer and so on. Part 4. Setting quiz related access rights through general, presentation and quiz section given in the setting panel. And finally the part 5 where we create responses spreadsheet and opening and closing of such forms during examination. So part 1. Naming the Google form with appropriate examination details with useful instructions. So let's begin with part 1. As we see in this form, let us take an example of a subject of R 2016 revised CPCGS 3rd year IT of semester 5. Subject code is ITDLO 5012. Subject name is image processing. So as we see in this particular first part of the video, where we create this particular section where we talk about the name of the Google form and the instructions to be followed for the students. So the important instructions are mentioned here. This was all about section 1, naming the particular Google form with appropriate examination with appropriate instructions. Let us move to the part 2. Part 2 is about creating section for the students' details to be filled by students. Here we have added different fields. Remember, it is always better to provide drop-down option wherever possible for selection in the form to have unique and dedicated entry in the response sheet. It shall minimize error and confusion as each student might think differently and fill data variably or distinctly or differently. So, as shown here that even though there is only one field in the drop-down menu, still it is better to provide such things, and it not only helps to avoid error but also saves students time. Such unique entries provided in the drop-down menu also helps in sorting data later on after receiving all responses. So as there is only one field, you observe a drop-down given so that students can easily select this to save time and to avoid error. So this examination detail, subject code and name detail, seat number may be provided by examination or university, provided in the hall ticket, student name and student contact number. These are all fields are marked required. This was all about part 2 of the video. Now let us move to part 3, where we create examination section for adding multiple choice questions, marking correct answers and setting 2 marks for each correct answer and so on. This particular section is second and last section to be created in the Google form, which contains all multiple choice questions to be attempted by students. As we can see in this case, there are 2 questions already added in the form, and now we will see how to set the correct answer and assign 2 marks to each question. So this question is made required. In order to assign the correct answer, click answer key and select the correct answer. Then assign 2 marks to this particular question. As we all know, there are 2 marks assigned to each question, and then say done. Also click 3 dots and say shuffle option order. Let us move to the second question. For an example, we have just taken 2 multiple choice questions here to illustrate how to set the correct answer and how to assign 2 points or 2 marks to each question. Click here, then choose the correct answer. So let us say this is correct answer and assign 2 marks to it, which is called 2 points in the Google form, and then say done. Do not forget to mark this required as I am doing here. So this is required, and then click 3 dots and say shuffle option order. Once this is done, you can see this red star. It tells that this question is compulsory to attempt, and you can also see that the right questions assigned to it once you click here. So this is the right question. There are 2 points or 2 marks assigned to this question. Similarly, we can check here that this particular 4th option is right and there are 2 points assigned to it and it is compulsory, and also we know that this particular shuffle option order is checked. So this was all about part 3 explanation of this video. Now let us move to the part 4 of this video. In part 4, we talk about setting quiz related access rights through general, presentation and quiz section given in the setting panel. So let's move to the setting. There is this particular setting that we have to click now. In this, there are 3 sections: general, presentation and quizzes. Under general, always click collect email addresses to ensure that who is filling this particular form or who is attempting this particular examination using a particular authentic email ID. So this will help to get the source account which is used to attempt this particular examination online. If an organization has their domain email addresses, for example, Mahatma Education Society, Pillai College of Engineering has created their students' email ID under domain at mes.ac.in. In that case, we should check this. Similarly, colleges may have their own domain and email addresses, so this should be checked. We should always check this, that respondent will be required to sign in to the Google, of course, as we checked here, and limit to 1 response. That means a student will be able to appear examination only once. Do not click this, which allows edit after submission. So do not allow students to edit or change their options or answers after submission. Students should not be able to see the summary, so do not check this. Also do not check this. We do not want to provide the questions and their sets to these students. Then to the second section, presentation. Here show progress bar. There are 2 sections. First section will be presented first and second section will follow. So show the progress bar and also shuffle the question order. Remember, earlier we have shuffled the options inside a question. Now this particular check will shuffle the question order. Let us move to the third section, that is quizzes. So quizzes, this is checked that we are making this quiz. Do not do anything here. This is applicable only for those who have Chromebooks to appear examinations, which we do not have this in this case. So do not do anything here. Here it is very important in this entire video to understand this particular section. Note here, this is very important. We should check this. Also remove these first 2 checks, and we should only keep point values. Remember, this point value means it shows to the students how many marks are assigned to each question. So 2 points or 2 marks assigned to each question students will be able to see that. So check this. Please keep in mind, this should not be checked. This should be checked and this should be checked only in this section. Once this is done, then save. So this was all about settings under part 4 in this video. Let us move to the last part of this video. Finally, in the 5th part of this video, we talk about how to create response spreadsheet and how to ensure opening and closing form. Finally, creating response spreadsheet, sending link and opening form 5 minutes before examination and closing form 5 minutes after examination. Say if examination is from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. then the form should be opened at 10:25 a.m. and form should be closed at 11:35 a.m. So let us see how this is done. Go to responses, click this particular link, create spreadsheet. So if right now you see there is only one form in the folder. When we say here create, it will create a response sheet which is created in the folder where the form is. So it will create an spreadsheet which will look something like this, which will have students timestamp when they have submitted the examination form, this particular examination. Their email addresses will be automatically recorded, and the third column will give the score of the students. This particular score will be taken care by the Google form irrespective of the shuffling of the answers inside a question or questions inside a section. Once everything is set, we have to send this form to the students for appearing examination. So before we send this form to students, ensure that this is locked. This is one thing. Second, click send and do not send this form directly to the students. Rather, click here, shorten the link, copy this particular link and then write a mail. In that mail, add all students' email ID. In that mail, you add this link as examination link for this particular subject. This will ensure the number of students whom you have sent this particular link as an appropriate record. This was the part 5 in this particular video. Once student receive this particular form, maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes in advance, ensure that 5 minutes before the examination, as I said, examination is let's say 10:30 to 11:30, then at 10:25 we should click this and say accepting responses. Now students will be able to open this form and they'll be able to fill these mandatory details which will normally take 2 to 3 minutes. And students will also appear this particular examinations by going to the second section. So if examination is from 10:30 to 11:30, then we have to close this form at 11:35 by clicking responses, by clicking stop accepting responses. After clicking this stop responses, students will not be able to submit their responses and response sheet will not be able to record any submission. For 2 questions, there are 4 points, 2 marks for each question. If we have 25 questions, it will be 50 points. That means 50 marks. This was all about 5th part of this particular video. That's all in this video. Thank you.